Also in Minneapolis, since that horrific murder, the number of police officers claiming post-traumatic stress disorder, they're not asking for sympathy, they're asking for compensation. And the requests for compensation have skyrocketed, with more than 1 in every 10 police officers receiving payments. That number was around 3 million in 2019. But in 2020, that number jumped up to 14 million during the past year. It's more than $22.5 million, with 134 officers receiving PTSD compensation. Joining me now to discuss all of this is Michelle Gross. She's the president of the Communities Against Police Brutality. I'm also joined by Jelani Hussein, the Minnesota Executive Director of CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Welcome to you both. Michelle, I'm going to start with you. Why the huge spike in numbers of police officers claiming PTSD compensation for the last 2 years?
You know, that's a great question, given that, we were the people that experienced getting shot with, projectiles and tear gassed and so forth. But somehow the police are the ones that have suffered the terrible PTSD, and 134 of them are, now claiming that they are too disabled to work. Part of the issue is that our state passed a new law a year ago or so that made it easier for officers to claim PTSD. And the assumption under that law is that if you have any kind of, post-traumatic stress disorder, you have it from work. And so all of a sudden, all of these officers lined up, and almost all of them through one particular law firm, I might add, lined up to try to get this benefit of getting a big payout of money and not having to work anymore. So it's just, to me, it's a big scam, frankly. But that's what's happening around here now.
And are there more officers lined up to claim PTSD payout for this year? Is the number 134 going to increase even more?
Oh, yes. There's about 100 more claims that they'll be listening to, and approving, because the city isn't doing anything to actually investigate these cases in any way. It's outrageous when you think about the fact that our department only has 800 officers. Then to have, what will now be about 250 officers out with PTSD, wow, and getting these huge payoffs, it's really quite sickening. At the same time,
it really is. Jelani, last November,
excuse me, sorry.
Jelani, last November, sorry to cut you off there. There was a slight delay. Jelani, last November, local activists pushed for replacing the police force altogether. That ballot proposal failed with 56 to 44, but it shows how so many people feel about the police. How is the relationship between the black public and the police force at the moment in Minneapolis?
Well, I think the latest killing of Amir Locke, I think displayed a very clear sign that the mayor who ran on pretty much defeating that policy, who was reelected, lied to the public about what he ran on, which was to stop no-knock warrants. And we found out now that no-knock warrants were executed, and the one fatally killing young Amir Locke in his as he was woken up from his sleep, and we still don't have any answers. So I think many black residents in Minneapolis and the surrounding cities are waking up to a norm, sadly, that promises are made during the election process, and even those who have a large support from the black community continue to misrepresent what they're going to do. And to this date, the officer involved in killing Amir Locke has not been removed from the force. And so I think the tensions in the community is that we are back to square one. Nothing has fundamentally changed. The mayor who made promises long before Amir Locke was killed, we're now finding out none of those policies were actually being held accountable to. And since then, we haven't really had any response. So I'm speaking to what Michelle has and you have been talking about earlier. The city of Minneapolis continues to give more money to the police, and it continues to put us in this position where really the community are asking for changes, and those changes are not coming.
So what do we do now? You know, Jelani, I'm trying to understand. You know, we live in a world where people are getting beat down by police, where we're getting harmed in every way imaginable. And now the very people who harm us are getting compensation and sympathy for the harm they've caused. I mean, it's like a bizarro world to me. What do we do? How can we support you?
Well, this is a double-edged sword. First of all, I mean, it was just heartbreaking to see President Biden, Mr. Law and Crime, double down on the idea that we're going to fund police. Where are you going to fund police, or are you going to fund children? Right now in Minneapolis, we don't have the budget to meet the demands of the teachers because we have allocated more funding to police. And so I think Black people and predominantly people of color in this country need to realize that we have to continue to organize in the middle of, coming out of this horrible pandemic. We have to continue to organize, and we have to realize we have been lied to by politicians on both sides of the aisle. And it's time for us to really think seriously about the next steps that we need to take, because I think nothing has fundamentally changed. To this day, the George Floyd Act has not been passed, and now we have countless killings that have happened since then. So, I think to our beloved community, this is not new. I think we have to be resolved and resilient and continue to resist and recognize that we can't put our hope into the Joe Bidens of this world. We have to carry that hope in our own hands and do as much as possible. Start local and continue to push federally.
Start local, push federally. That is an important notice. You all have done the local work already. You're going to continue to do the local work. But us as a national community, we as a national community have a responsibility to do the same. Everybody, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with the two community leaders from Minneapolis. We want to continue to unpack the reasons behind the huge increase in police officers filing these PTSD claims. So don't go anywhere. Be sure to join the conversation. We want to hear from you. Be sure to visit our BNC Instagram and Twitter pages. Let us know how you feel. Also visit our YouTube channel to check out clips from